Hello, hello, and welcome. I'm Emma Green. I'm the Tennis Elbow Queen, and thank you so much for joining me today for this training. I am going to be sharing some slides with you. So let's see if I can do that first. All right. Can you see that okay? I hope you can. I hope you can see my slides. All righty. So if you do have any questions as I'm going along, feel free to put them in the Q&A. There will be, I'll be answering questions at the end. And so if something comes up as we're going through the presentation, don't feel like you have to wait till the end to put it in the Q&A. Just, pop it straight in. Because if you're anything like me, you'll probably forget by the end what you wanted to ask. So if something does come up, please pop it in the Q&A straight away. So the inspiration for this training today came from my recent visit to the UK. So about 10 days ago, that was me. I was standing in the World Tennis Library at Wimbledon, having the second edition of my book, Tennis Elbow Relief. So Tennis Elbow Relief 2.0, the second edition. So if you have your book with you, we're going to be working through it. So yay. And yeah, it was being admitted to the World Tennis Library at Wimbledon. So it was great to go and do that. The original version, Tennis Elbow Relief, was admitted at the end of, I think it was 2022. I think it was the end of 2022. And so just in that short space of time, so the first edition was published in 2021, but it was... there had been so much new research come out since that edition, which is why I kind of came up with the second edition. So I really wanted to sort of celebrate the fact that the book had gone into the World Tennis Library. It felt really good. I don't know if you can see, I've got a little pin on, got my Wimbledon pin on here as well. So it's just so far. So that's what gave me the inspiration for this presentation. So here we go. The reason for both editions is people are suffering unnecessarily because tennis elbow, it's seen as a really simple diagnosis. And we're going to talk about that a little bit as well, because I really want you to understand the pathology behind it. But actually, when you start looking into it, and I'm sure you have, if you've got tennis elbow, you've really researched how to resolve it. And there's so many differing viewpoints. There's so many differing perspectives, different treatments, different strategies. And the reason for that is it's quite a complex diagnosis. It's quite a challenge to resolve this. But, as I say, research is changing all the time. New research is coming out, which is why I needed to do the second edition of the book. And it was funny, actually, because while I was at Wimbledon, the guy said to me, "Oh, I'll see you in a couple of years then when you do the next edition." Please write. Probably in 2 or 3 years, I'll need to update it again. But there is a proven pathway that you can follow. And that's what we're going to be talking through today. So my mission is to save 100,000 elbows from unnecessary injections and surgeries. And I hope your elbows are going to be counted as part of those. So I am by trade a physical therapist. I trained in the UK, so I was a physiotherapist, basically the same thing, just a different name for it. I trained at Manchester University, worked in the UK for 11 years before coming over to the US. So I worked for the National Health Service. I had my own clinics over in the UK. I worked for national sports teams over there, traveled all over. And that was part of, I think, what helped me come up with the program that I developed. Because I was working with elite athletes, and it's a case of having to get them like back out on the pitch, the next day, or, they've got finals coming up, whatever it is, back on court, they needed to be out there fast. So I think that's part of what I do, or part of what makes what I do different, having that different perspective. And it really kind of came to a head now 16 years ago when I was asked to assess a professional drummer who'd had tennis elbow for 18 months. If you know, if you've got the book, you've got Buddy's story in here as the foreword. He wrote that foreword for me. And that's his story. You know, he had tried everything, had really struggled, and so I was determined to help him, and that's where the program came from. So now I pretty much see, I mean, 80% of my caseload is tennis elbow. I also work with people who have golfer's elbow, biceps tendon issues, triceps tendon problems. I work with a lot of musicians now. Obviously, Buddy kind of opened the floodgates to that. My previous life, I was working with a lot of lower extremity issues. So things like Achilles tendon problems, patella tendon problems, so things around the knees and the ankles. And now it's kind of shifted to around the elbow, around the wrist, the shoulders, because I'm seeing sort of a different patient population. 6 years ago, I started dabbling in telehealth to see whether it could I could help people without actually having to put hands on them, and I can, it works. And I've been 100% virtual since lockdown. So what is tennis elbow? So if you've got your book in front of you, I want you to go through, and we are going to be looking at basically chapter 2. So what is tennis elbow? If you're looking at chapter 2, page 27, if you have the hardback, I think it's the same in the paperback version. If you're on Kindle, you're going to have to just, get yourself to chapter 2. And you can see you've got this picture on page 29 of exactly where it is and what it affects. So tennis elbow affects the outside of the elbow. If you've got pain on the inside, that's golfer's elbow. If you've got pain at the front, biceps. If you've got pain at the back, triceps. So the principles or the pathology of the tendon, depending on which tendon you're feeling, the pathology of the tendon is going to be the same. It's just in a different place. So it's different anatomically. But focusing on tennis elbow, it's on the outside of the elbow. It's the muscles of the forearm as they attach into the bony part of the elbow. And if you've got tennis elbow, you know exactly where that happens because that's where you're feeling it. One of the biggest things that you need to know about tendons is tendons as just an anatomical structure are very, very slow to change. Now, what that means is, yes, slow to heal because slow to change, but also sometimes this can creep up on you over a prolonged period of time, and all of a sudden you start feeling your elbow. You're like, well, what did I do? I didn't bang it, bump it. I don't feel like I've overdone things. What's changed? And it often when I see people, I'll say to them, what did change 3 to 6 months before you started feeling it? Now, if somebody doesn't get in front of me until they've been feeling it for 18 months, like Buddy, it's like, okay, let's go 18 months ago when you first started feeling it. What changed 3 to 6 months before that? And that's what I want you to think about is when you're looking at how long you've been feeling this. Obviously, you know how long you've been feeling it, but what changed 3 to 6 months before that? Because that was probably the contributing factor. And when we look at the contributing factor, obviously we have to change something. So for Buddy, I think he played like 300 gigs in a year or something like that. So overuse had hugely increased. And obviously to start with, he wasn't feeling anything. It crept up on him over time. Tendons are slow to change. So as they're slow to change creeping up on it, they're also slow to change when they're healing. So that's why it can take a long time. And again, to reiterate that, when I first started working with Buddy 16 years ago now, our knowledge at the time of tendons was that tendons heal in 12 weeks. We used to think that not very long ago, 15, 16 years ago, not that long ago in the grand scheme of things, the medical community thought that tendons healed in 12 weeks. We now know that's not the case. And obviously, if you've read the book, the research shows us tendons take 12 to 24 months to heal, not weeks, months, because they're so slow to change. And we see this on functional MRIs. We can see this on improved ultrasound imaging. So we can actually see the tendons healing. We can see that change happening, but they're very slow to change. And the thing that can also happen is the brain and nervous system start to become involved. And this was something that I kind of stumbled upon this, because what I started to realize was that all of the clients that I was working with who'd had pain for more than 3 months all had some kind of nerve issue. They had some kind of nerve component that I could pick up on doing an assessment with them. And I would find these nerve issues. And I was like, what is so significant about 3 months? Because the people that I was seeing who hadn't had pain for that long didn't have the nerve stuff. And yet 96% of the people I was seeing who had it for 3 months or longer had this nerve stuff going on. So what is the significance of that cutoff point? What is the significance of 3 months? So I started looking into pain science, and I started to delve a little deeper into chronic pain. Now, chronic pain by definition is pain you've had for 3 months or longer. So, there's a connection straight away. So when we start looking at pain that you've had for 3 months or longer, we know it's chronic pain. Well, how is pain different? And again, you will see that in the book. What is pain? I'm on page 35 now. What is pain? You've got a definition of chronic pain here. And so pain, if we talk about acute pain, if you cut your finger, ow, it hurts. That's acute pain. It's fresh. It's happened right now. It's new. Chronic pain is pain that you feel after this period of time. After this kind of window that, we kind of think that things should heal. If you cut your finger in 12 weeks, you'd expect that to be healed. Well, yes. Now, we know the pathology of tendons are different. We know that it's not going to be healed in 12 weeks. And what we know is that when we start to get this chronic pain, what it does, it starts to change your brain and it starts to change your nervous system when we get what's called central sensitization. Now, why is that relevant? Well, what happens when we get these changes in the brain, we get this central sensitization. It's basically a hypersensitivity of the nervous system. It takes your body into fight or flight. I'm sure you've heard of that. So it basically switches on the sympathetic nervous system. This is your body in fight or flight. This is a survival mechanism. We go back 10,000 years. This is, am I running away from this animal? Am I fighting it off? It literally is a survival mechanism like that. And so when your body is in survival mode like that, it's not going to be able to heal a little tendon injury like tennis elbow. And I don't say that to be dismissive of tennis elbow. It's just your body is not focused on that. It's focused on survival. So unless we address that central sensitization, unless we start to reverse those changes that are happening in the brain and the central nervous system, your body's not going to be able to heal. And I started to see this with my clients, and I'm like, well, how can I help them do that? How can I help them make these changes? How can we reverse the changes, the chronic pain changes, so that the body is then set up for healing? And that's how my program sort of started to expand. Again, initially, if we go back to Buddy and people I was working with 15, 16 years ago, it was very orthopedic physical therapy in nature. It was very much, okay, here's the stretches, here's the strengthening exercises, here's the soft tissue techniques that we're going to do. Yes, we probably need to look at your neck and your shoulder and your mid back and other things, but it was very orthopedic physical therapy in nature. And as time went on, and I started to realize that we needed to address this central sensitization, we needed to address these other issues, that's when it started to expand more into brain pain science as well, because I realized that has to be addressed in order for us to get good results for the tennis elbow. So that really is going to split you probably into two groups. Those of you who've had pain for less than 3 months, those of you who have had pain for more than 3 months. Now, obviously, you've got the book. You know that there are these key elements of rehab. We've got 4 sort of healing phases that we go through, and the book is split up into those 4 phases. I do talk about central sensitization because obviously we talk about chronic pain. We do talk about central sensitization. As we're moving into chapter 3, you can see on page 41 what causes tennis elbow. We know, yes, overuse is the biggest cause, altered biomechanics, direct trauma. So a bump, trip, slip, or fall absolutely can cause it, but that is a much smaller percentage of the people who suffer. Can be a compensation mechanism. Antibiotics can cause it. I've worked with over 4,000 tennis elbow patients. I can count on one hand the number of people who antibiotics was the cause, but I have seen it. So it does happen. Ergonomics, sitting at your desk, just again, it kind of ergonomics goes in with overuse, and then central sensitization. I was starting to realize now as I was digging into central sensitization, I started asking people questions. And it's so interesting when people would be like, oh, well, I've had sciatica for 20 years. And it's like, oh, so you've had central sensitization for that length of time. Maybe that predisposed you then to getting tennis elbow. Because if you have central sensitization, you have this hypersensitivity of the nervous system. What it does, it makes the nervous system work not as effectively, or it kind of almost puts it on to overdrive, if you like. So the nerves start sending more messages than they should do to the muscles. So the muscles are working harder. So muscle tension goes up. When muscle tension goes up, it pulls on the tendons that the muscle is attached to. I know I'm talking fast because I want to get through a lot. Again, put questions, please, in the Q&A. I see some coming in. That's great. I'm going to answer them at the end. It pulls on the tendons as the muscles are, if your muscles are tight, because they're getting so many messages from the nervous system, they start tensing up. They're pulling on the tendons. As they're pulling on the tendons, those tendons start to degenerate. And that's what tennis elbow is. So we start to get this degeneration. Now, I want you to imagine a rope, because if we did an ultrasound scan or an MRI scan and we look at a tendon, it kind of looks like a rope. Imagine a rope tightly wound up. It is all, very uniform. The fibers are all in the same direction, tightly packed together. That's a tendon should look like a rope. Now imagine getting hold of that rope and twisting it the wrong way. The cells, the fibers come apart. Cells can get in there that shouldn't be there. That's a degeneration of a tendon. That's what happens when you're feeling tennis elbow. And when we recover it, when we do the right treatments, it tightens that back up. They call it wringing out the tendon. We're tightening it back up, and that's what we can see on the imaging, is we see this reversing of the degeneration. So looking through, we have to address central sensitization if that's an issue. If you've had tennis elbow in the past, and then maybe it's affected the other side, or now it's golfer's elbow, or maybe you've had a shoulder issue, there's a high correlation of rotator cuff issues with tennis elbow. And the common feature in all of this, and yes, you can think about compensation and different things, but the central sensitization that you're feeling from a chronic injury, no matter what that is, maybe it is back pain, maybe it is neck pain, whatever it is, that's going to predispose you as more likely to succumb to something like tennis elbow if you start to change what you do. So what do I mean by that? I see a lot of retirees who they've retired from work, they start playing pickleball, they freaking love it, and they're going playing like 7 days a week, literally, boom, and they end up with tennis elbow. It can be somebody is going into the gym and they are increasing their weights, and they increase it faster than their tissues can tolerate, and they give themselves a tendinopathy. So these are the issues that we need to address. And unless we fully address the central sensitization, there's a high possibility that you can then develop other tendon problems as well because of this hypersensitivity of the nervous system, this increase in muscle tension, this pulling on the tendons, and then tendinopathies develop. When we're looking at our rehab, it's really important that we get heavy with our recovery, with our exercises. It's also important that we rehab for long enough. We've talked about tendons taking 12 to 24 months to fully heal. If we stop before then, it's not going to be fully healed, and it can reverse. So looking at those things as being really important to recovery. So here's your window of opportunity. If you are listening to me right now and you've had tennis elbow for less than 3 months, you are in that perfect window of opportunity. You can stop the central sensitization from developing, unless you've had other things in the past, in which case, yeah, you probably need to deal with it. But you can get rid of it much, much easier. I don't see the concurrent nerve issues as much with, or at all, with people who've had tennis elbow pain for less than 3 months. So you're in that perfect window of opportunity to recover. Follow everything in the book, trust the process. That will help you recover. there's no reason why you should need anything else. The book will do it. If you've had pain for longer than 3 months, you have to address these other things, and preferably ASAP, because the longer it goes on, the more changes you get in your brain, the more you're changing the neural pathways in the brain. Because what happens is we get biochemical and anatomical changes in the brain. We see these changes on functional MRIs when people have been experiencing pain. And we see it reverse as they start to do the strategies that they need to do to revert. We have to reverse those anatomical and biochemical changes in the brain. That helps to decrease the central sensitization. We switch off the sympathetic nervous system. We switch off the fight or flight. We have the parasympathetic nervous system switching on. That is rest, digest, and heal. So if sympathetic is fight or flight, parasympathetic is rest, digest, and heal. That's what we want. So there are strategies that we can use to tap into that. That's going to basically unlock your healing. It's going to unlock your healing. It's going to allow you to heal in the best possible way. So what have you tried in the past? I'm sure you have tried injections and massage and YouTube exercises and rest. And some of these elements can be helpful. Some are actually detrimental. And again, the research shows us that. We know that injections into a tendon are detrimental to that tendon, no matter what you're putting in. If you happen to be putting in cortisone, that's like doubly detrimental, because the cortisone itself breaks down soft tissue. And so cortisone will break down the soft tissue of the tendon. There is a higher possibility for that tendon rupturing. It doesn't happen very often in tennis elbow. So it doesn't happen often. But I have seen patients where literally their tendons were like hanging on by a thread. So we don't want to have that tissue broken down, and cortisone breaks down tissue. So if you've had a cortisone injection, don't worry, put it behind you, move forwards. If you've not had one, don't have one. But putting other things in there, just the action of putting a needle into a tendon, it causes, obviously, a localized injury too. You're poking a hole into a tissue. And remember, going back to tendons like a rope, tightly wound up rope, we don't want cells getting in there. You poke a hole in there. The tendon doesn't like that. How long is that going to take to heal? 12 to 24 months. That's how long tendons take to heal. So anytime a hole is poked into that tendon, it is not good for it at all. Okay, so here's kind of the old worldy stuff. And when we're looking at the book, a little bit of this is in literally chapter 1. Could everything you've been told about tennis elbow be wrong? When we think about the olden days and we think about the old wives' tales, they're all listed in chapter 1. Obviously, you can see that. But also looking at the way the research has changed, even in the last 3 years. This is why I had to do the updated version of the book, because the research is changing so fast. The problem with that is medical research is done by researchers. It's not necessarily done by clinicians. And it takes a long, long time for the findings of that medical research to filter down into medical practice. A long, long time. Now, not always. The protocol I use for helping tennis elbows, heavy load eccentrics. You can see that in the New World there, heavy load eccentrics. And it makes me laugh that this is under New World, because we've known about heavy load eccentrics for 25 years. And I can remember, in fact, it's more than that, 25, 26, 27 years, because I can remember my senior physiotherapist at the time at the hospital I was working at, she came running into the department with this article, this like groundbreaking article, this new research that had come out of Scandinavia. And she was like, this is going to change everything. And she was right. It was 27 years ago. And we use heavy load eccentrics for tendinopathies. So we've used it for Achilles tendons for that length of time. It's been modified for patella tendons. And 16 years ago, I modified it for Buddy's elbow, for tennis elbow. And it works. Putting that heavy load through the tendon is what heals the tendon. So looking at the old world stuff, you know, rest and ice, we still use those, but in a very specific way. Pills, potions, topicals, topics I've put there, topicals, I should say. Physical therapy. So generally, if you had tennis elbow in the past, this is what you'd be told. Rest it, ice it, you know, maybe take some pills, rub some cream on it, go and have physical therapy. If none of that works, you can have injections. If that doesn't work, then we'll do surgery. That's pretty much the progression that people would go through. Now, in the new world, what we're looking at is relative rest, but more heat, particularly the longer you've had it. If you are sitting listening to me and you've had tennis elbow for 3 weeks, it's you know, you can pop some ice on it, that's fine. If you're longer than 3 weeks, which I'm guessing most of you are, you're going to heat the heck out of it. And again, the reason being, tendons don't have a good blood supply. We need a good influx of blood flow to heal the tendon, because the tendon gets the building blocks for the healing process come in the blood flow, they come in the blood supply. So if it has a poor blood supply, you're not getting the building blocks for healing, that's going to struggle to heal. You're looking at 24 months. If we can speed that up and optimize that by using the heat, then that's going to be very helpful. You know, we're also looking at the heavy load eccentrics. That is crucial for healing the tendon. The brain pain science, again, if there's an element of nerve issue, if there's an element of chronic pain, if there's an element of central sensitization, we have to address this. And then the most recent thing that this was not in the first book, is in the second, tendon neuroplastic training. And it's a specific way of training the tendon. And it's going to be in, let me tell you, chapter, so about phase 3. So it's chapter 9, about phase 3, tendon neuroplastic training, page 152. And that tells you what it is, how to do it. And again, it optimizes the body for healing. It helps you heal better. It helps you heal faster. It helps you get back on court quicker and more effectively. So obviously, you've probably read Buddy's story. It is the forward in the book. You know, please read it. He tells his story so much better than I do. So you can read that. But this is him, and he just finished his world tour. He might still be on his world tour. He's playing drums every night in concert. I mean, I think they just finished the North American leg. I think they are out in Europe, but he's playing. And so, you know, we first met 16 years ago, and he's the reason that we're all sitting here today. So thanks, Buddy. So this is what I came up for, Buddy. And obviously, you know this through the book. So you've got the 4 phases of healing that you need to go through. Now, you don't need to look at this and go, am I in phase 1? Am I in phase 2? Well, I'm not sure about where do I start? Everybody starts with phase 1, because phase 1, it's the foundation that you can then build upon when you move to phase 2. Phase 2 prepares the tissues to allow them to tolerate what you're going to do in phase 3. Phase 3 allows you to progress to phase 4. So you don't have to kind of guess where you need to start. You need to start at the beginning. You need to start with phase 1, implement those strategies. Then you move to phase 2. You move to phase 2 once you're implementing all the strategies. So it doesn't be, you don't have to kind of go, oh, I'll stay at phase 1 for a week or 2, then I'll move on. I'll do phase 2 for a week or 2, then I'll move on. You can implement the strategies in phase 1 very quickly, jump straight into phase 2, implement those strategies. Now, there is a caveat between phase 2 and phase 3. You need to have brought the muscle tension down. The reason for that is when we go into phase 3 and we start adding in the strengthening exercises, we know that when we do strengthening exercises, muscle tension goes up. So if your muscle tension is already up because you have central sensitization, or because you're in pain and the muscles are just tightening up because you're in pain, that happens too. And then you start adding strengthening exercises into that as well, it's going to make you worse. You got to focus on phase 1 and phase 2 strategies. They work together to bring that muscle tension down so that you can tolerate phase 3. So I talk about the stake test, kind of prod it into the forearm muscles. Like, you're literally going to be pressing into the forearm muscles. What am I feeling in there? How does it feel? And making sure that I call this the steak test, making sure that it is medium rare. You know, that's kind of where we want you, rare or medium. If it is well done and tight as anything when you're pressing in there, you got to work on bringing that down. And you work through those strategies to bring that down. Then you go into phase 3, you go through your eccentric exercises. You add in the tendon neuroplastic training with the eccentric exercises. That's going to be the most effective. It's super easy to do. And then if you need to look at other things as well, again, if you've had pain for less than 3 months, just get through the eccentrics. You'll be fine. Eccentrics and stretches, you are good. If there's other stuff going on, if you have issues with your neck, with your shoulder, you may need to address these other things as well. If you are a tennis player, maybe you need to look at your core. Maybe you need to look at the strength around your shoulder blades, how that is keeping your shoulder joint in a good position. You might need to look at your rotator cuff. So there might be other things that you add in. This is where I kind of like the phase 5 of the online program that people go through has advanced exercises specifically for rotational athletes. So I'm talking about tennis players, I'm talking about golfers. When I say tennis players, I should really say racket sports, because it can be any racket sport. You know, we'll put pickleball in there, we'll put table tennis in there, any sort of asymmetrical, holding a paddle or a racket, you're a rotational sport, as well as golf. So there are advanced exercises for that. They are not in the book because, I mean, you can see how thick the book is anyway. You know, this is just tennis elbow. If we put everything in there, it'd just be like, I don't know, an encyclopedia. It'd just be ridiculous. So there might be other things that you need to work on. Tap into a local physical therapist for that. They can help you with that. You know, they can help you with neck stuff. They can help you with rotator cuff stuff. They can help you with shoulder blade stuff. These types of issues are much more common. So most general physical therapists will see, I mean, every day, backs, necks, knees, shoulders, every single day, we'll be seeing those patients. Elbows, tennis elbow, 1 or 2 a year. So, you know, sometimes this is why they struggle to kind of really be able to dig deep into this pathology, because you just don't see that many of them. So you have got in your hands the way to heal the tendon. If you need the other stuff, tap into somebody locally. They absolutely will know how to help you strengthen your core, your neck, your shoulder, whatever. And if you want guidance from me, obviously reach out. That's no problem at all. Once you are doing the strengthening exercises, what happens is, as you get stronger, now what I mean by that is, as you can tolerate taking the weight higher, the symptoms come down. So the stronger you get, the more you can, the more your tissues can tolerate, the more they can do, the more they are comfortable with those higher weights, the lower the symptoms will come, the lower the pain will come. You're putting good stresses and strains through the tendon. That's healing the tendon. It's wringing it out. It's reversing the pathological changes. So you are healing your tendon whilst you're doing your eccentric exercises. How long does it take? 12 to 24 months. How long are you going to do your eccentrics for? 12 to 24 months. If you stop beforehand, there's a big possibility that it can start unraveling the wrong way. So let's not do that. Tighten it back up, keep it tight. Once you have been pain-free for a week while you're doing your eccentric exercises, then you can move into phase 4. And this is where we start to regain the endurance, the function, the sport-specific elements. Now, that's not to say you're not going to work on sport-specific stuff until you get to phase 4. You're not. Every single phase has sport-specific elements in there that you're working on. So basically, when you get to phase 4, you can sort of hit the ground running and get back on court, back out on the course, whatever it is that you want to do. So it's really important to be working on those things. It's really important to be working on the nervous system through each of these things as well. And you'll see that in the book as we kind of, as you go through. So when you're looking at phase 1, there are elements in there that work on the nervous system. There are elements in there that are sport specific. When you get into phase 2, same. When you get into phase 3, same. When you get into phase 4, same. So it's important to be addressing those things as you move in through. So what does the research tell us? So we know that 1 to 3% of the general population will suffer with tennis elbow at some point in their lifetime. Now, compare that to the research tells us that 80 to 95% of people will suffer with back pain at some point in their lifetime. This is why physical therapists are really good at back pain. They see them all the time. And that research is really interesting to me because I don't think I've ever met anybody who's not had back pain. I mean, I'm a physical therapist. I've had back pain. I think we've all, I mean, if you've never had back pain, please pop that in the Q&A. Let me know. So it is a much smaller percentage of the general population. However, if you play tennis, 50% of tennis players. So you know, if the 2 tennis players on court, one of them is going to suffer with tennis elbow at some point in their playing career. So it is obviously a much higher incidence. Overuse is the number 1 cause. We already kind of touched on that. Chronic pain is a factor. You know that. I've discussed that too. Cortisone or any injection are not a good idea for tennis elbow. And things like electrotherapy, again, I probably should have put that on the old world slide under physical therapy. It used to be very sort of passive treatments. You know, you would go to physical therapy, kind of maybe lie down on the bed, and you would have maybe you might have the ice put on, you might have somebody do massage to you, you might have the ultrasound machine on you, you might have the Easton machine on you, then off you go. Very, very passive treatments don't make a difference. All right, so phase 1. So here we are at phase 1. So if you have your book, we are at chapter 6. Chapter 6. Phase 1, reducing the symptoms. So this is really ideally what you want to be working through. And I know it's a long list, and I know it can look quite daunting, but I want you to kind of assess each one. You might not need each element. So if we start with the heat, ice, and the relative rest, if you've had pain for longer than 3 months, you need to be heating the heck out of it. So you absolutely need to be putting the heat on. And I advocate 10 minutes every hour of the day. That's the gold standard. Now, that's not practical for many people, so I say at least 5 times a day. The reason for that, I used to say 2 or 3 times a day. I had 2 clients totally independently of each other, because one was in the US, one was in the UK at the same time. And they both heated way more than I told them to. They both got better faster. So if we can increase the circulation, you're going to get better faster. Heat the heck out of it. It's not forever, it's just for now. Ice, use it if it helps. So if ice is helpful to you in that it helps to decrease the pain, it helps you to decrease the pain so you can sleep better. If ice is helpful, use it. That's okay. If you've tried ice, it doesn't make a jot of difference, don't do it. So you can absolutely cross that one off if it's something that is not going to be helpful to you. Now, if you have been, if you went shopping and you were picking the bags out of the trunk to the groceries, and you kind of went, ow, I just felt my elbow, you can get ice on it. If you feel like you've tweaked it, you can ice it for 3 days and then switch back to your heat. Relative rest. So that means not irritating it, basically. You can do anything you like that doesn't hurt. But if something hurts, you want to avoid it, because anytime you feel that tendon, it's basically saying to you, I don't like that, please stop. And it is irritating it. It will take longer to resolve. So relative rest means anything that makes it hurt. Posture, ergonomics, and biomechanics. So posture is important. If we're in a poor posture, it's going to pull on the nervous system. That can then stop that from recovering, which in turn stops the tendon from healing. Ergonomics, you know, if you are sitting at a desk all day, if you're on a laptop, just looking at these different things. And again, you know, we go through this extensively in the book, Ergonomics, on page 88. Biomechanics, similarly, if you are, I was talking to somebody recently, they've changed their biomechanics for the sport that they do. And that can be somebody working on their serve. You know, they're working on their tennis serve. They change the way they do it, and then they start to develop in tennis elbow. Often I would say, you know, if you're looking at changing something, work with a really experienced coach who can help you progressively do that over time so that you're not overloading your tissues all in one go. That can be really helpful. Braces and tape. So when we're talking about braces for tennis elbow, there are so many different kinds. There's the strap that goes around the forearm that I'm sure most of you have tried. If you have radial tunnel syndrome with this, which is a nerve issue, that's going to make you worse. So if you've tried the strap and it's made you worse, it's probably because you've got a nerve issue going on as well that needs addressing. If you only have tennis elbow, the strap actually can make it feel a whole lot better. The problem being when you put the strap on, the way it makes it feel better is the muscles switch off underneath. Because you've got this tight strap on the forearm, the muscles relax off so they don't pull on the tendon. That's how it makes it feel better. But if somebody's wearing that all the time and the muscles are switched off all the time, the muscles start wasting away. Muscle wasting starts within 9 hours. It's incredibly quickly that we can start getting wasting in the muscle. So as the muscles start to waste away, then with obviously when we get to phase 3, we start trying to build up the strength. You're going to be starting from a more depleted position. We don't really want that. So I advise people, if the strap feels good and you want to wear it and you have to be comfortable for work, if you need to wear it for work, okay, fine. If you're moving house and you're going to be moving a lot of boxes, okay, pop it on, protect your elbow. The strap is really not there for you to go play tennis 3 times a week just because you want to. If it's a Wimbledon final, pop it on. That's fine. But if it's just for you to get out, that you need to heal it. You need to heal it well, give it the little bit of rest from the activity that's irritating it and allow it to heal. The other type of brace that we talk about is the carpal tunnel night splint, which supports the wrist. It keeps the wrist back in this position. That takes the tension off the muscle, and that can allow that to feel better as well. Not everybody needs it. I would say test it and see. Tape, similar kind of thing. Some people like wearing KT tape over the top. If that is you and you want to use it, again, while you're doing stuff, that's fine. Don't wear it all the time. That's just reminded me, actually, heat, ice, and tape, we need to really be protecting the skin. So when you're doing heat, even though I'm saying lots and lots of duration, I don't want lots and lots of intensity. I don't want it hot, hot, hot. If you take it off and the skin is discolored, I mean, the skin's going to be pink when you take the heating pad off, but that should resolve within, a few minutes. If that is staying more permanently, that's damage to the skin. We don't want that. If you start damaging the skin, there's a possibility that you can start damaging the superficial nerves as well. We know the nervous system is already freaked out. We don't want to add to it. Similarly with ice, if you put ice directly onto the skin or you leave it on too long, it can cause blistering. You can get frostbite. I mean, I have seen that happen to people. It's not a good situation. So when you're using the ice, always wrap it in a damp towel, put a layer of oil on the skin so it's not going to stick. Put the ice on top of you rather than you leaning against it, just to protect the skin and the tissues. With tape, you want to make sure that you're not taping all the time. You can get skin breakdown from tape all the time. So using it strategically when you need it, and using actually just a little dab of milk of magnesia over it when you take the tape off, that can actually really help the skin. Sleep is super important, and it's something that we might not necessarily think about, but we heal when we sleep. If you can't sleep, you can't heal. So it's really important that we implement strategies that are going to help you get a good night's sleep. And this is all obviously focused on healing the tennis elbow. This is obviously really good for general health and well-being too. So making sure that you are getting a good night's sleep. Pills and topicals, if you have been prescribed something by your doc, try it, take it, see how you feel. They might even say, take ibuprofen as you need it. They might say, take Tylenol as you need it. If you've taken ibuprofen and it doesn't make a jot of difference, there's no point taking it. Ibuprofen is an anti-inflammatory. If there's no inflammatory cells there because you've had it for such a long time, the inflammation has resolved, but you've still got the irritation, ibuprofen is not going to work on it. So if you're taking something and it's not making any difference, you've got to question why you're taking it. Have that conversation with your doc. Topicals, things like Voltaren gel, it's an anti-inflammatory gel. I know some people find that they get benefit from that. Interestingly, recent research has shown that ibuprofen is actually not good for healing tendons. Anti-inflammatories are not good for healing tendons. So not only that they like don't work, but they can actually be detrimental. So I would question taking an anti-inflammatory. Similarly, even with the gel, my perspective is a lot of the time when people are putting topicals on, it's actually the massage motion that is beneficial, because you're getting a little bit of increase in circulation there, you're getting some decrease in the muscle tension, it kind of feels kind of nice, you're getting some sensory input. So, maybe try it just with a body oil or something like that, see if you get the same benefits. That's completely fine. I have had some patients have really good results with like a topical CBD balm. So again, if it's something that you would like to try, give it a go. Nutrition, supplements, and hydration. When I first created my online program 5 years ago, I talked generally about nutrition and hydration, from a wellness perspective. But now we know that consuming protein is going to be very beneficial for healing. Protein are the building blocks for healing tissue and tendon in particular. So you need to make sure you're taking protein in, rather than if you're not taking protein in, your body will take it from a source in your body, which are your muscles. And we don't want that, because then that's going to weaken them even more. So it's really important to be intentional with your protein. Every meal and snacks, making sure you're taking protein in. It's completely fine if you want to do protein shakes, add supplement to smoothies or whatever works for you is fine. And then with regards to supplements, we now know that things like vitamin deficiency can have effect on tendon healing. So I recommend sort of taking a multivitamin can be very, very helpful. I'm going to page 98 right now. This is the section on supplements. So taking a multivitamin containing vitamins B, C, and D may be helpful. So making sure you're covering those. The vitamins, so B complex, there's like B1, B2, B3. So there's all of these Bs, I think up to about 12. And some are more important than others. Off the top of my head, I think it's 1, 2, 6, and 12. Off the top of my head, I think. But as long as you get in a multivitamin that's kind of checking, yes, B complex, yes, it's got C, yes, it's got D, that is going to be helpful. Now, also the hydrolyzed collagen. So hydrolyzed collagen is basically, it's collagen that's broken into its component parts. So it's broken down. So instead of longer chains, they're smaller chains. Your body can use them more easily because it's broken down. This can be helpful before exercise. So we always consider the protein after exercise. We want to restore our protein stores. And then the hydrolyzed collagen before exercise, that's going to help with the healing. So when I say before exercise, before doing your eccentrics, you're going to be loading the tendon with your eccentrics. Let's get the hydrolyzed collagen in there at that point. And making sure you're not dehydrated. If you're dehydrated, your blood is thicker. It can't move around as easily. You can't get the building blocks of the healing process there. So making sure that you are staying hydrated. Cardio exercise is something that we use. That's, again, to increase the circulation. But it's also very good at hormonal balance. And this, again, comes into the trying to switch off the sympathetic nervous system. So sympathetic is fight or flight. When sympathetic nervous system is activated, we get a release of stress hormones. So adrenaline, cortisol, those hormones are released when we're stressed. Now, that's fight or flight. That's not going to be healing. When we exercise, when we do cardio exercise, we get a decrease in those stress hormones. We get a release of happy hormones. We get a release of endorphins. That's putting you into more parasympathetic. That's putting you more into rest, digest, and heal. The endorphins are your body's own natural painkillers. So not only are we using it sort of physically to increase the circulation, we're also looking at this hormonal balancing as well. Relaxation is going to decrease your muscle tension. Visualization, this is where the sport-specific element of this comes in. So visualizing yourself doing your sport pain-free perfectly. Elite athletes use visualization. We're using it to strengthen the neurons that are basically do that move. So if you are a tennis player and you visualize yourself doing a serve and you do it perfectly and it's pain-free, you've got to visualize it in real intense detail. The brain doesn't, it struggles to differentiate between your intense visualization that you're really immersing yourself in and reality. So we are strengthening those neural pathways by using that visualization. That's going to allow you to get back faster. It's why elite athletes use it. So we use that in phase 1 as our sport-specific element. Now, as we move on to, I think it's chapter 7, we've come into what I have called here phase 1 plus. This is if you've had pain for longer than 3 months, you also need to address these elements. If you've had pain for less than 3 months, you can skip this chapter. If you've had pain for more than 3 months, then you're going to go through this as well. Now, there are going to be additional nutritional supplements that can be helpful. Lion's mane is one that I talk about. This is really good at helping to calm the nervous system. It's really good at helping to reboot the brain. It's just a really good neuroprotector. It's really good for our brain. Again, more and more research coming out about lion's mane and how good it is for our brains. Like, we should all be taking it. It's so good. Forest bathing. This is where we decrease the sympathetic. We're switching on parasympathetic. We're getting the really good elements that are going to help your tendon heal in the fastest possible way. Calming the nervous system. This section is all about calming the nervous system using the empowered relief class. So empowered relief is a 2-hour class that I teach. It was developed by pain psychology doctors at Stanford University for people who have chronic pain. So it's not elbow specific at all. It's chronic pain specific. And so it basically teaches you 4 different strategies to switch off the sympathetic nervous system, switch on the parasympathetic nervous system. It does it in such a good way. I've kind of been looking for how to explain this to my patients, how to help my clients improve this faster. And when I found the Empowered Relief class, I was like, oh, this does it beautifully. So I'm a certified instructor for Stanford for the Empowered Relief class, and I teach it once a month. If you've done it and you want to do it again, just let me know. You can always come and do the session again. It is a 2-hour live class on Zoom. It is not recorded. It's pretty much the only thing I don't do. No, it's the only thing I do that is not recorded. And the reason for that is because Stanford have spent over a decade researching how it works and how well it works when people attend the class. They don't know how it works when people watch a recording, so they don't let us record it. But it is it's so well put together. You learn so many different things. And if you've had pain for longer than 3 months, you need this. This is like the unlock to the healing. So the Empowered Relief class I talk about in this section. Breath work. We do very specific breath work in the Empowered Relief class. Meditation. Tai Chi is something, again, that mind body technique. We're looking at calming the mind. We're looking at switching off the sympathetic nervous system. We're looking at starting to add in some really easy, gentle nerve mobilizations for the nervous system. So all of that is in phase 1. And that's in that, and phase 1 plus in that additional chapter. So in phase 2, as you know, we normalize the soft tissues, we regain full range of motion. We're looking at specific soft tissue techniques, and you learn those in the book, along with the specific stretches that are going to be helpful for you. So the one specific stretch that is helpful for tennis elbow is when you put your arm straight out in front of you, palm down to the floor, take your fingers down to the floor, and then you pull your wrist in there and you hold that stretch. That is the stretch for tennis elbow. Now, there may be other stretches that you need. Maybe you need to stretch out the upper traps because they've been really tight. Maybe you need to stretch out the pecs. Again, a local therapist can help you with that. Yoga, I introduce in this phase as well. purely because we start to get a little bit of increase in weight bearing through the hands. We start to get a little bit of increase in the complexity of the movements. And then we add in activity specific movements also. Phase 3, as you know, heavy load eccentric exercises. We continue working through the central sensitization using empowered relief. We add in the tendon neuroplastic training, the TNT. Core work, upper quadrant strengthening. Upper quadrant is basically neck, shoulder, and arm. Looking if that is needed, improving proprioception, that kind of goes in with the TNT, and activity-specific progressions. Phase 4, this is when you are pain-free for a week. We build endurance, function, add in specific nerve mobilization should you need it, and return to sports. I know that was a bit of a whistle-stop tour, but what are your next steps? If you've had pain for less than 3 months, take yourself through the book, go through those 4 phases. That will resolve it for you, 100%. Unless you have central sensitization. If you know you've had something like sciatica in the past, if you know you've had tennis elbow in the past, it keeps coming back. If you have golfer's elbow, or maybe you've had a rotator cuff issue, or you've had something else, central sensitization likely is an issue. And you most likely will need the empowered relief class to add in there as well. It's really important that you get heavy. And when I'm talking heavy, we're looking at, if you want to play tennis or golf, getting your eccentrics up to 12 pounds and rehabbing for long enough, 12 months minimum, maybe longer. If you know, if you kind of, I have some clients who are just like, I'm never going to stop doing this because it just, I don't ever want to go back. So rehabbing for long enough is super important as well. So I would invite you to join my mini book program. So this is phase 1. Obviously, we've just done that right now. Next week on Monday at 12 p.m. Pacific, I'm teaching empowered relief. So if you want to come and join me in that, I would love for you to come and join me in empowered relief. We're also then the week after, I am going to do, well, the 1, 2, 3 weeks after that. So these are all Mondays. I'm going to do 3 more bonus trainings for people who have got the book. And if you want to join me for that, I would absolutely love you to join me. We're going to focus much more on phase 2 on October the 27th. We're going to focus on phase 3 on November the 3rd, and we're going to focus on phase 4 on November the 10th. They will be much shorter sessions, probably about half an hour. We're starting those at 11 a.m. Pacific, much more sort of a Q&A type thing. So if you have questions about any of those phases, you can come to those sessions. You can join the mini book program for just $97. So that basically gets you the empowered relief class and those 3 additional sessions after that, those 3 live sessions with me where you can bring your questions. You can, I will do some teaching on each of those phases as well. But if you would like to do that, I would absolutely love for you to come and join me. You can join through the QR code. I am going to be sending out the replay to this session. You're also going to get the workbook in the email that I send out to you after this session as well. And I'm going to obviously put the link in there to join the rest of the mini book program. So if you want to join the additional trainings, you get the empowered relief class, you know, please, I would love for you to come and join me. So this is what you get. You get these bonuses. We've just gone through phase 1 right now. You know what you're doing. You've got phase 1 and phase 1 plus. We've got empowered relief next week. Week after, we're going to talk all about phase 2. Week after that, phase 3. Week after that, phase 4. If you can't make empowered relief next week, because I know it is a little bit of last minute, you can join the empowered relief in November. And that will be on the November the 17th. So if you want to do that, please feel free to do that. And there is the QR code once again, if you want to join. So I'm going to answer some questions. Yeah. Okay. So many thanks for doing this. You are so, so welcome. Oh, thank you. Work and dedication is really helpful, as there's so much misleading information on the web, as well as at your physiotherapist for this injury. Oh, I'm sorry about that. So my question, when I will be fully recovered using this system and start again doing your sport, kite surfing, ooh, brilliant. What do I suggest you do to prevent this happening again? That's a great question. So at the first discomfort or little pain that I will feel, do I need to stop, rest, put ice, make sure my forearm muscles are trained enough before I go out to sea again? Great question. So once you have recovered this, so I know I talk a lot about the tendon heals in 12 to 24 months. You're not going to be feeling pain for that length of time. Pain can resolve actually very quickly within weeks, not months. But it's really crucial that you understand that the tendon is not fully healed, even when you're pain-free. So you can become pain-free within weeks. You can get back to kite surfing very quickly. But no, the tendon is not healed. It is essential that you continue on the heavy load eccentrics. Essential. It's essential that you utilize the stretches, because what we know from overuse, basically when something gets overused, the muscles get tighter. When the muscles start getting tighter and tighter and tighter, that pulls on the tendon. When that pulls on the tendon, that's when the tendon starts to degenerate. So if we can keep muscle tension down, you can do that with heat, you can do that with stretches, you can do that with meditation, with breath work. There are all these different strategies that you can use to bring that muscle tension down. So I would advise incorporating that into your routine. So a lot of the time when people start to go back to their activities, I'll say to them, you are going to heat before you go out there. You are going to stretch before you go out there. If you need to do the soft tissue techniques, maybe you need to trigger point or do some soft tissue massage. Bring that muscle tension down so that when you start doing your activity, we know the tension will go up, but at least it will go up from a lower point. If the muscle tension's already up and then it goes higher, that's when you can lead to issues. So, and there's no reason why it should come back if you follow the program, if you follow the plan to the letter, but you will know how to resolve it. You will know if you feel a little tweak or a little niggle or a whatever, you'll be like, oh, I'm going to get straight on. Let's do the heat. Let's get my stretches. Let's do the, you've got the tools. So you will understand the process that you need to take it through. So I hope that helps. If you have a follow-up question, please don't hesitate to pop it in as well. Okay, so you shoot a compound bow and discovered that you were drawing your bow incorrectly. For about a year, there was discomfort, irritation in your forearm for about a year. And when you finished shooting, the discomfort disappeared, but not enough pain to stop you from shooting frequently. When I incorporated the new drawing method, I experienced pain in my elbow. I immediately stopped and sought help. Does the fact that I had experienced some discomfort for over a year put you in the less than 3 months or the more than 3 months category? Great question. Yes. So if you are feeling discomfort and it's less than 3 months, but you've had the history in the past, there's likely going to be an element of central sensitization. There's likely going to be an element of chronicity in the areas of the brain where we see pain control. And that's what we see on functional MRIs. So because of the history, it's likely going to be there. Now, the fact that you've not been feeling it this time for very long is very positive. That's very good. It means that it can still recover fast. It can recover quickly. You can get pain-free quickly, but understand that the tendon still takes that time to heal. And it's important to address the elements of central sensitization as well to prevent future tendon issues. So I hope that helps too. If you have another question, obviously, please feel free to pop it in there. Somebody has never had back pain. Woo, that's amazing. You are one of the, depending on the research, 5 to 15%. That is fab. Any other questions that I can help you with? Anything else? Well, this has been so fun. I will get the replay out to you ASAP along with your workbook. Thank you for joining me. And if you want to join me for the next 4 weeks, come to Empowered Relief this time next week. We'll talk all about phase 2 the week after that. We'll dive deep into phase 3 the week after that. We'll dive deep into phase 4 the week after that. And it's all with the book. So obviously, you know, if you have your book, work your way through the book. If questions come up, don't hesitate to reach out. And I would love to see you in Empowered Relief next week. Honestly, it's one of my favorite things to teach. I really, really enjoy it. It's just so well put together. Okay, so an over 3-monther here. If we're obviously getting better, yeah, tension getting less and less, good. Well, then something caused it to then obviously feel bad again. Letting sweeping the wrong way to blame. Should you then avoid the next level? Not necessarily avoid the next level, but recognize that it's still, so it's obviously you're within that healing stage. So phase 1, you can start phase 2 straight away. There really needs to be no gap between phase 1 and phase 2. Between phase 2 and phase 3, you don't need to be pain-free. In fact, you're not going to be pain-free because, or it's unlikely you're going to be 100% pain-free because you're not strong enough yet to tolerate everything you want to do. The strengthening comes in phase 3, but the muscle tension needs to be down between phase 2 and phase 3. If you don't bring the muscle tension down, phase 3 is going to make you worse, and we don't want that. So bringing the muscle tension down using the phase 1 and phase 2 strategies to allow you to tolerate phase 3 is important. Now, going from phase 3 to phase 4, you need to be 100% pain-free for a week before you progress to the strategies in phase 4. Now, there is a slight caveat with that as well, because I talk about the nerve mobilizations in phase 4. And the reason I talk about nerve mobilizations in phase 4 is that it's very easy to flare up the nervous system. So if I'm working one-to-one with a client, they may have nerve mobilizations quite early on in the treatment if it's something that they specifically need. It's not in the book. It's not in the shorter courses that people take themselves through. It's not in there early because it's easy to flare it up. If you do it too much, too soon, in slightly the wrong way, it's really easy to flare the nervous system up. So the reason that the nervous system, the nerve mobilizations are in phase 4 in the book is that reason. If you're working with an experienced therapist who is guiding you and they're able to take you through the nerve mobs faster or earlier, that's completely fine. But when people are doing it by themselves, I like them to have some strength under their belt first. I like them to be pain-free so that we know we can add in the nerve mobilizations. They can tolerate it. It's not going to flare them up. I hope that answered your question. It's probably more than you're expecting. Any other questions? I have really enjoyed this. This has been so fun. I know it was a bit of a whistle-stop tour. I know I talk fast. You could probably slow it down when you watch the replay if you want to do that, or jump to the sections. If you would like to join me next week for Empowered Relief, you know, please do that. I would love to see you in there. As I say, I love teaching it. It's such an amazing program. And it really does help to unlock the healing. The other thing about it is, obviously, everything I do is sort of focused on tennis elbow, but it's going to unlock your healing for other things too. So if you have had rotator cuff issue in the past, if you have a neck issue or a back or a knee or a plantar fasciitis or whatever it is, it can be anything, the Empowered Relief helps to switch off the sympathetic nervous system, activate the parasympathetic nervous system to put you into that rest, digest, and heal phase. So although everything I teach is so focused, you know, it's like, this is for your elbow, this is for your elbow, but it's going to help other stuff too. And that's the beauty of it. So if you would like to join me next week for Empowered Relief, I would love for you to come join me. The week after, we're going to talk about phase 2, the week after phase 3, the week after phase 4. It's all going to be stuff from the book. So, you know, have your book handy, be working your way through. This could be your sign to, okay, let me really focus on this. Let me move forwards with this. Let me really take this opportunity now to get rid of the old world stuff. Let's come into the new world. Let's use these strategies Everything I teach is evidence-based, which means it comes from the research. So it is cutting edge. That's why the second edition had to come out, because there was so much new stuff in just from 2021. The first edition came out 2024. Second edition came out in 3 years. And it you know, as when I was at Wimbledon about 10 days ago, the guy said, I'll see you in 3 years then. When you do the version 3, I'm like, yeah, you probably will. I'll be doing it then. So I really love diving into the research. I kind of geek out on the research, and I love doing that. So that's why these new things are pulled in. Tendon neuroplastic training is something that is very recent that I've added into the program. The nutritional supplements, that's all been updated within the last 3 years. So it's incredible now how the research is changing as new research comes out. I can't update the book. That'll probably be done in 3 years, is my guess. But the program that I teach, I update it as new research comes out. I put new videos in there showing all of this new stuff and just expanding on the best ways to heal. So any other questions? Does anybody have any other questions? I know we've gone a little bit over time, and I really appreciate you spending this time with me. I hope that's been valuable for you. I'm going to get the replay kind of all chopped up and sent out to you, along with your workbook and the link to join me in Empowered Relief and the mini book program following that as well. As I say, if you can't do Empowered Relief next week, put it on your calendar for November. You can absolutely choose either of those, or even both of those. If you want to come to both, you absolutely can, because once you've come to Empowered Relief once, if you ever want to do a refresher, you just let me know and I'll put you on the list. There's no additional cost for you coming again. It's the same content, but if you attend on Monday, you'll see there's a lot of content, and we go through those 4 strategies that help to reverse the central sensitization and the chronic pain changes. And if you want a refresher, you just let me know, and I always pop you on the list. So if you have any other questions, don't hesitate to reach out. This has been so fun. You are so welcome. And I hope to hear all about your success. If you have got the book and you have time to write me a review, I would be so grateful. It's one thing when people with tennis elbow like hear from me. It's totally another thing when they hear from people who've been in their shoes. So if the book has helped you and you feel called to write a review, just almost think about maybe, what did you need to hear? What somebody who was in your shoes when you first started feeling tennis elbow, what would be helpful for somebody to know that they're going to get good information they can follow that can really help them to heal. So if you could leave me a review on Amazon or Goodreads or any of the platforms, that would be amazing. I'd really appreciate that. And I hope to see you in Empowered Relief on Monday. Have an amazing rest of your day, and I will hopefully see you soon. Take care. Bye.